Thinking of getting a pet bird, but stuck between a budgie and a cockatiel? You're not alone. This is one of the most common questions bird lovers, especially first-time owners, ask. Maybe you're looking for a feathered friend that won't break the bank? Or one that won't drive your neighbors crazy with noise? Or maybe you just want a cuddly companion who will sit on your shoulder while you work from home. Whatever your reason, both budgies and cockatiels seem like great options. But which one is actually easier to care for? Let me tell you a quick story. When Sarah, a first-time bird owner, walked into her local pet store, she was instantly drawn to two cages. On one side, a tiny, bright green budgie zipped around like it was training for a birdie Olympics. On the other, a soft gray cockatiel tilted its head, let out a mellow whistle, and hopped right onto her finger. Sarah was hooked, but confused. Both were adorable. Both were friendly, but she had no idea what she was getting into, and neither do most new bird owners. So today, we're breaking it all down. Care requirements, intelligence, companionship, space needs, training, potential, and everything in between. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which bird fits your life best. And hey, let us know in the comments, are you Team Budgie or Team Cockatiel? We'd love to hear your stories. Before you rush out and buy a cage, let's look at what actually makes these two birds different at the most basic level. Basic differences between budgies and cockatiels. All right, let's break it down. What really makes a budgie different from a cockatiel? Think of it this way. If budgies are the tiny gymnasts of the bird world, cockatiels are the laid-back yoga instructors. One's high energy and flashy, the other's chill and gentle. But let's get into specifics. First up, size. Budgies, also known as parakeets, are small, like fit in your hand small. On average, they're about 7 inches long, tail feathers included. Cockatiels, on the other hand, are more medium-sized. They average around 12 to 13 inches, and they definitely take up more space in a cage or on your shoulder. Lifespan, that's another key difference. Budgies usually live between 5 to 10 years with good care, though some make it to 12. Cockatiels often live 10 to 15 years, and with a healthy diet and regular vet checkups, some even push 20. Now let's talk noise. Budgies are chirpy little chatterboxes. They love to vocalize in short, rapid bursts, almost like tiny robots or typewriters going off. It's cute, but constant. Cockatiels, they're more into whistling and soft squawks. They're not silent by any means, but they're usually less relentless than budgies. Some even learn to whistle full tunes or mimic household sounds. Yep, that microwave beep. That might not be your kitchen anymore. Visually, both birds are stunning in their own way. Budgies come in an explosion of colors. Blues, greens, yellows, purples, you name it. They're like little feathered rainbows. Cockatiels stick mostly to grays, whites, and yellows. But they've got that iconic orange cheek patch and that expressive crest that moves with their mood. Total bonus. Temperament-wise, they couldn't be more different. Budgies are like toddlers on espresso, curious, fast, playful, and sometimes a little nippy if they're overstimulated. They love toys and action. Cockatiels, though, they're mellow. They enjoy affection, love head scritches, and are known for forming strong bonds with their humans. They're curious but slower-paced, and often just want to hang out. So, if you're looking for a high-energy, colorful companion budgie might be your bird. Want something a little more relaxed and cuddly? Cockatiel might steal your heart. Now that you know what sets them apart, let's dive into what it actually takes to care for these birds day to day. Care requirements, budgies versus cockatiels. So you've got a pretty good idea of what makes a budgie different from a cockatiel. But let's get to the real question. What kind of care do they actually need? Because let's be honest, adorable as they are, birds aren't low-maintenance pets. Each species comes with its own set of needs, quirks, and yes, occasional messes. Feeding frenzy, seeds, pellets, and produce. Let's start with the basics. Diet. Both budgies and cockatiels need more than just seeds. In fact, a seed-only diet can lead to malnutrition, obesity, and all kinds of health issues. The gold standard, a mix of high-quality pellets, seeds as treats, and fresh fruits and veggies, think leafy greens, carrots, apples, no seeds, and the occasional corn niblet. Fresh, clean water daily is non-negotiable. And yes, both species will happily dunk their food in their water like it's soup, so be ready to change that water often. Cage life, room to roost. Now for cage requirements. Budgies, being smaller, can do well in more compact cages as long as they still have room to stretch their wings, climb, and explore. Think wide cages over tall ones. Budgies fly horizontally. Cockatiels, though, they need more space, period. They're larger birds, and they crave interaction. A cramped cage can lead to boredom, stress, and even self-plucking. Look for cages that allow ample room to flap, play with toys, and hop from perch to perch. And here's the thing, both birds need time outside the cage. Budgies love to fly laps around the room. They're little acrobats. Cockatiels, they're more about bonding. They'll fly, sure, but many would rather hang out on your shoulder or snuggle into your hoodie. Messy roommates. Let's talk about something no one mentions in the pet store, the mess. Budgies are little scatter machines. They fling seeds, hulls, and feathers like it's their full-time job. You'll find tiny bits of millet in places you didn't even know existed. Cockatiels aren't as messy with food, but they come with something called feather dust. It's a fine powder they produce naturally to protect their feathers, and it gets everywhere. If you've got allergies or asthma, this is something to seriously consider. Birdie health. What about health? Budgies are prone to tumors, particularly as they age, and some suffer from French molt, which affects feather growth. They're small and sometimes hide symptoms, so regular checkups matter. Cockatiels can develop respiratory issues, especially if exposed to smoke or strong scents. Female cockatiels may also suffer from chronic egg-laying, which can be dangerous without proper care. Both birds benefit from annual avian vet visits, but keep in mind, avian vets can be hard to find and expensive, so factor that into your decision. Grooming the right way. As for grooming, you won't be brushing feathers, but you'll still need to stay on top of things. Beak and nail trims may be necessary if your bird isn't naturally wearing them down on toys and perches. Baths or misting, that's a must, especially for cockatiels, to keep their feathers and skin healthy. Some birds love splashing in a shallow dish, others prefer a gentle spray. So yeah, these little guys come with their share of responsibilities. But with the right setup and a little daily effort, both Budgies and Cockatiels can thrive in your home. So, now that you know what kind of effort each bird needs, what about how they actually connect with you? Let's talk companionship. Companionship. Budgies versus Cockatiels. Alright, so we've covered size, noise, and cage chaos. But now, let's get to the heart of it. Because for a lot of bird owners, it's not just about feeding and cleaning, it's about connection. So, who makes the better companion? The cuddly cockatiel or the bouncy budgie? Who's more affectionate? Let's start with affection. Cockatiels are famously cuddly. They don't just tolerate human interaction, they crave it. Many cockatiels love nothing more than perching on your shoulder for hours, gently preening your hair or bowing their heads for scratches. If you're looking for a feathery shadow that follows you around and bonds deeply, the cockatiel's your bird. Budgies, on the other hand, are more independent. They're friendly, playful, and curious. But unless you've hand-raised them or spent serious time taming them, they often keep a bit of emotional distance. Think of them as the roommates who like you, but don't need to be glued to your side 24/7. Talking and mimicry, who's the chatty one? Now let's talk about something people always ask, talking ability. Here's a surprise, Budgies are actually better talkers. Yep, these little guys can develop impressive vocabularies with time and patience. Their voices are higher pitched and a little robotic, but they can learn dozens, 700s of words. Cockatiels, by contrast, are not usually talkative. Some can learn a word or two, but their strength lies in whistling. They're natural musicians. If you've ever heard one whistling the Andy Griffith theme or R2-D2 noises, you know the magic. Single bird or pair? Another big question. Should you get one bird or two? Budgies are super social with each other. A pair of budgies will play, preen, and chatter all day long. But here's the catch. The more bonded they are to each other, the less they'll bond with you. If you want a deeply connected pet, it's better to start with one budgie and give it plenty of attention. Cockatiels, meanwhile, often do best solo if you have time to interact with them daily. Without that attention, they can get lonely, depressed, and even start plucking their feathers. But with consistent love, they'll thrive on your companionship and form a bond that's downright dog-like. Emotional sensitivity. And speaking of emotions, cockatiels tend to be more sensitive. They notice changes in your mood, routines, and energy. If you're feeling off, don't be surprised if your cockatiel acts a little off too. They're emotionally intuitive, and yes, they can get jealous if they see you giving someone else attention. Budgies can be affectionate and interactive, but they're often more resilient when it comes to changes or being alone for longer stretches, though they still need enrichment. So whether you want a low-key feathered friend or a snuggly sidekick, both of these birds bring their own kind of companionship to the table. All right, they're both charming, but which one's the brainiac? Let's talk smarts and training. Intelligence and training, budgies versus cockatiels. Okay, we've seen who's messier, who's cuddlier, and who talks more, but what about brains? Let's talk about intelligence and training, because when you bring a bird into your life, you're not just adding a pet, you're inviting in a little feathered genius. So Budgie or cockatiel? Who's got the edge when it comes to learning tricks and picking up on your vibe? Trainability. Who learns faster? Let's start with basic trainability. Budgies are like the sow, hyper kids in class who love new challenges. They're super curious, fast-moving, and often pick up on tricks quickly, especially ones involving toys like ringing bells, flipping bottle caps, or playing basketball with tiny hoops. They're also great at vocal training, often learning phrases through repetition and tone mimicry. Cockatiels, on the other hand, shine in hand training. They're a little more methodical, a bit more emotionally tuned in. They're naturals. When it comes to step-up training, target training, and even learning to respond to gestures, they might not be as quick as a budgie with physical tricks, but what they lack in speed, they make up for in consistency. Social learning, adapting to your life. Both birds are smart enough to learn your daily routine, but they do it in different ways. Cockatiels tend to become little emotional mirrors. They'll start to anticipate your habits, when you wake up, when you go to work, when you come home. If you leave the room, they might call for you. If they hear your phone alarm, they may whistle it back. Budgies are less emotionally tuned in, but still very pattern-aware. They'll start recognizing feeding times, your footsteps, even the sound of the treat bag. They're quick to build mental maps of your environment, especially if there's food involved. Vocalization, talk versus tune. Here's where things split. Again, budgies can learn a surprisingly large number of actual words and phrases. Some budgies have vocabularies of over 100 words. Their voices are tiny and robotic, but they're clear. If you want your bird to say, "Good morning," or "Hey, cutie," budgies are your go-to. Cockatiels, however, are whistling wizards. Tunes, jingles, theme songs. These guys love to learn melodies and repeat them beautifully. They might only say a handful of words, but they'll whistle the Jeopardy theme like a pro. Problem solving. Who outsmarts who when it comes to puzzle solving and figuring things out? Budgies are lightning fast. Give them a puzzle feeder or a hidden treat and they'll poke, nibble, twist, and solve it in minutes. They're mechanical thinkers. Cockatiels are more emotionally driven problem solvers. If they feel stressed, they won't engage. But when calm and motivated, they learn deeply and remember longer, especially tasks involving trust and interaction. Top training tips for both. Keep sessions short. 5 to 10 minutes is perfect. Use positive reinforcement, millet, scratches, or their favorite toy. Be consistent. Same time, same tone, same cue words. Always end on a high note, even if it's a tiny win. At the end of the day, both birds bring brilliance in their own way. One's a chatty go-getter, the other a soulful whistler with serious emotional depth. Still unsure which one's best for your lifestyle? Let's break it down one more time. Which bird is right for you? Budgies versus cockatiels. All right, we've broken down everything: diet, behavior, training, even poop levels. But if you're still on the fence, let's get real. It's time to answer the big question. Which bird is right for you? Because no two homes or hearts are the same. Budget-friendly, Budgie wins this round. Let's start with the wallet. If you're looking for a lower-cost entry into bird ownership, Budgies are the clear winner. They're smaller, so their cages can be more compact and cheaper. They eat less, and their toys, perches, and general setup cost less too. Vet visits and care costs can be lower overall simply because of their size and simpler needs. So if your budget is tight but your heart is big, a Budgie might be your match. Low maintenance versus high snuggles. If you're looking for a pet that's lower maintenance, Budgies take that title too. They're more independent, more content with just watching the world from their perch, as long as they have toys and a buddy or you. But if you're craving a more affectionate, emotionally bonded companion, Cockatiels are hard to beat. They love head scratches, sitting on your shoulder, and being near you. They're more like a feathered best friend, where Budgies are like that fun roommate you occasionally hang out with. Living situation. How noisy can you get? Noise matters, especially in apartments. Budgies chirp and chatter throughout the day, and while they're not as loud, it can be constant. Cockatiels, they're quieter until they're not. Their whistles can echo through the walls, especially if they're bored or calling for you. If your neighbors are chill or your walls are thick, either bird works. But for sound sensitivity, a single Budgie might be the safer bet. Best bird for kids? For families with children, both birds can work, but for different reasons. Budgies are smaller and less intimidating for little hands, but they can be fast, flighty, and a bit delicate. Cockatiels are typically more gentle and patient, especially with older kids, but they do require more supervision and calm handling. Either way, teaching kids to respect a bird's space is key. First time. Bird owner? Here's the honest truth. If you've never owned a bird before and you're not sure how much time you can dedicate each day, start with a Budgie. They're forgiving, playful, and can be kept in pairs if you're busy. But if you know you want a close companion and you're ready to commit time daily to bonding and socializing, a Cockatiel can be your heart bird. At the end of the day, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's about your lifestyle, your expectations, and the kind of bond you want to build. All right, decision time. But before you go, here's one last thing you need to know. Let's wrap it all up in our final thoughts. So, let's bring it all home. If you're looking for a bird that's budget-friendly, energetic, and surprisingly talkative, Budgies check all those boxes. They're small, lively, and always up for a good chirp. But if what you want is a bird that's affectionate, mellow, and emotionally in tune, then the Cockatiel might be your feathered soulmate. They're the kind that loves to bond, snuggle, and whistle right along with your day. And here's the truth. There's no wrong choice. It's not about which bird is better, it's about which bird is better for you, your lifestyle, your time, your vibe. So, what's your gut telling you? Are you Team Budgie or Team Cockatiel? Drop it in the comments. We love hearing your stories, especially if you already have one of these adorable companions. And hey, if this video helped you out, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with any friends who are also bird curious. It really helps us keep making content for fellow animal lovers like you. And if you're ready to train your new feathered friend, we've got something exciting coming up. Our next video will walk you through how to teach your bird basic commands, tricks, and even words, step by step. So stay tuned, and until then, happy bird parenting.